Paul Willo Williams, author, two-tone documentarian, and frontman with the Scapones. Thank you very much for taking the call. I want to start off, Paul. Talk to me about the transition from sneaking out as a 13-year-old lad to see the Specials for the first time to eventually supporting them and playing with them on the same stage. That's quite the journey, isn't it?
Well, it's sort of those pinch yourself moments, isn't it? You know, I have to admit that when I was stood on that stage in front of thousands of people, I just thought, what the bloody hell are you doing here? What's going on? And it was just the way we were looked after, and the massive gigs, you know, the massive pier, the lighting, the rigging, the way we were just looked after by everybody and paid well, and it was just one of those surreal moments. And you know, I remember when the Specials were on stage, I was stood in the wings watching the performance, and I felt a nudge in my side, and there was Terry Hall, and he was taking a mick out of Linville Golding, and then he walked on to do a ghost town or something, and I just, like, the 13-year-old boy in me had a little wee.
And your journey, the journey that you've taken, then, you know, the Specials, not just musical, but you went and you wrote a book, 1995. The book You're Wondering Now was published. Was that the culmination of that kind of, you know, looking up to the Specials since you were a kid? Was that bringing that to a head?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't seem to plan anything. I get an idea out of the blue, and then I'll run with it, and where it takes me is where it takes me. But you know, I mean, we released the first edition of the book, which was just like, it was done by a small publishing house called ST Publishing, run by George Marshall, who did a lot of good little books, and they're more like pocket books, sort of things you would read on the toilet. You know what I mean? Because they were thin. You know what I mean? Though, that sort of thing. Quick reference. And then when the band got back together, so much had happened in that passing time since '95 that I'd been privy to. Luckily, been privy to. And I had loads and loads of different information. And I thought, well, let's do an update. And in 2009, of course, it was the 30th anniversary, and they went around the world, and, you know, minus Jerry Dammers and stuff. But, and I thought, yeah, let's do it. So I contacted, I think it was Cherry Red Records were interested, and we went from there. And it was great because I got to interview more people that I didn't have the option first time around. I got access to unseen photographs from actual band members, you know, photograph albums, just lots of inside information and stuff, you know, and it was a joy to do, because I mean, the thing is, it's like, you know, doing something you like to do. If you've got a great job, that's something you like to do. If you're, you know, whatever, it's that sort of thing. So I don't get bored. I didn't get frustrated or anything. It was just a joy to do. And every day I woke up and I wanted to do more and more and more. So when this book came out in 2009, for me, that was the ultimate copy. And, you know, I mean, there could be another update. Yeah, we're 10 years on. So I don't know.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. And I mean, you know, when you combine those two things, you know, the documentarian who's writing the book and the 13-year-old kid who snuck out for that first gig, you know, and didn't tell his parents. How did you feel about Jerry Dammers not being on that tour as a fan as well as a documentarian?
As a fan, it was a tragedy, really, because we all want to see the whole seven, you know, and he is the father of the band and the father of Two Tone and things like that, chief songwriter and stuff. But you know, one thing I don't like, and it happens in a lot of bands. You know, I'm in a band and we bang heads a lot, but it's a case of what really should be going on in the band should be a band's problem. It shouldn't be cast out for people to choose sides, or, you know, and I don't believe in that sort of thing. If a band is like being at work, if you're in a job, there are people you're not going to get on with, there's people you're going to get on with. You know, it's the way life goes. People are people. The Specials were very much seven completely different individuals, and that caused its own problems in the heyday, you know, in the early 80s. And now they're all a bit older. No one's going to start. They don't really. I don't want to sound, you know, Jerry ran the show basically in the early 80s, and what he said went. And I think because they got older, and they said, well, you know, we don't want to do that anymore, sort of thing. So when he came in, he had many different ideas of how it should have been done, and they weren't really playing much attention to it. He had 2 rehearsals with them. I think it was 2, maybe more. But he wanted to do, how he was doing at that time. He was doing his Spatial AKA Orchestra, this huge orchestra they had, which was more like a tribute to the Sun Ra sort of alien jazz ska fusion, was absolute completely fusionist all over the world. And of course, which slowed things down, and they weren't happy about. They said we can't go out there and do a little bitch or whatever you want to call it, or too much too young or whatever. People just want to hear the hits as they were, and that is true, and that is true. But I could see what Dan was wanting to do. Dan was saying, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. We're big on this, and I understand that. But the people, did want to see the hits and stuff like that. It's a shame he wasn't there. It really was a shame. It's a shame that after all these years that nothing can be resolved, and there's so a lot gone on since then legally. It's just a shame, really. But yeah, but 6 out of 7 wasn't bad, was my philosophy at the time.
Yeah, and I mean that's decreased a little bit now, but maybe the United Nations probably couldn't solve some of the problems that are going on in that band and in other bands as well. And let's move aside from the specials, even though it's a very important part of your story. The Scapones are as well, and I'm thinking last year, touring America, playing Whiskey A Go Go in LA, to this year, you're in Whiskey A Go Go last year. Now you're in Darlington talking to me. That's
quite. Mark, I'll talk to you all night.
That's quite a weird year, isn't it? How have, first of all, that must have been fun playing America last year. That must have been great.
It was immense. It was an immense experience, something that I'll never forget, and I'm very honoured to be able to experience. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, if we'd have gone there as 18-year-old kids, it would still have been the same excitement. The only thing is because we were in our early 50s and stuff like that. We're not as sprightly as we once were, Mark.
I hear you.
The sort of the traveling was immense, and it was really punishing. But we did it. I mean, we literally lived on adrenaline, because you'd drive. Nowhere's close in America, so your close gig would be still 4 hours away, and then you'd get there, set up, you'd be sat around for a while, play your gig 2 hours, drive 4 hours back. By the time you get back to your digs, it's 3 a.m. You've got 3 hours sleep. You're up for the plane to go somewhere else, and it was like that just all the way across. I mean, we've talked about it since, and we probably bit off more we can chew. We probably, we did the whole thing. We did West, Midwest, East, Midwest, and then the actual West Coast, and then back to the East Coast. So it was, but I wouldn't have swapped it. I wouldn't change anything. Nothing. It was hard, and towards the end, we landed it. We flew one day from Los Angeles all the way across to New York, which is the equivalent of flying from like London to New York, and we were tired. And I just remember, there was no car to meet us, and I'm going, where's the effing car? Where's the effing car? I started to lose it.
Did you have a diva moment in America? Did you? Is that what you're saying?
God help me. But
go from that then. Go from that tour in America to now. How have the band been coping with the situation that you're in at the moment? Because there's no live gigs. I mean, there's talk of some bookings coming in, but you can't believe that there's going to, we don't know when there's going to be gigs. So how have you been handling that?
Well, the big thing is that we're surrounded by a complete negative force and negative field at the moment with everything. I've stopped watching I check the news once a day on my phone, and I don't watch it on the TV because it's just the same thing over and over again. I can't stand the Tories, so I can't bear looking at him. Do you know what I mean? But and he makes the situation worse. It's weird, and so I try and pick the positive out of every negative. And so what we've done in the 6 months we've had off, I mean, our last gig was March the 13th in Edinburgh. And even then, that was just before the Scottish lockdown. And Edinburgh, well, we've played there a few times. I mean, you can imagine what Edinburgh's like. And when we got there, it was a ghost town. I've never seen it like that in all my life. It was scary almost, if you know what I'm saying. I just said, right, well, we're going to have to do something. We can't just sit in our roles. And plus, it's about keeping band profile up as well. A lot of bands have got bogged down a little bit, I think, with all the worry and not having work and stuff like that. And it's affecting people. I've seen a lot of friends and stuff like that, including myself. We've all gone stir crazy at times and stuff like that, because it's the thing about music is as you will know, is that although you're releasing records and stuff, and it's all fantastic, it's also, from a band's point of view, from my personal point of view, it's a form of expression. So when I'm on stage and stuff like that, I will go full tilt, absolute full tilt, because it gets it out of my system and I feel great when I'm finished. It's that sort of, it's a stress relief, basically. So this has made, and the stress of all this has been, so well, that has been just phenomenal. So we've tried to raise our profile online. We've had little record releases, digital downloads. We've released a single in America on vinyl. We've started a podcast show this week. We're just trying to keep busy all the time. We've done a couple of socially distanced gigs, which were interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But the live experience, which is what music is really all about. You can make as many records you like in the studio. I don't care who you are, what band you are. It's about the live experience, and that can't be replicated when people are sat down and.
Yeah. How do you stop people dancing at a ska gig? That's.
It's the worst genre.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. And just staying on this subject, we'll bring it up again, but just staying on this, something I've read you talking about, and I think a subject close to your heart, is small venues. Those venues where bands make a name for themselves, and some bands never play in bigger venues. It's the smaller venues that are the lifeblood of any music community. And in the UK, such as everywhere else, you're a bit worried about small venues at the moment, I think, are you?
Oh, terrified, absolutely terrified. I mean, where we are in the Northeast now, where I'm talking to you, we've lost 3 of our major venues up here. Small, grassroots, but big enough. They've had good names there, and a lot of the bands in the Northeast, original and covers, all cut the teeth there, and they still play there now. We do. We were due to have a gig at the Brewery Tapping Gateshead, which is a huge complex. It's a brewery. It's also got a lovely indoor stage with digital screens and an outdoor stage for summer, and we were due to play outside. It's gone. They've auctioned everything off. Even now, they've just closed it, shut it, and auctioned everything they had in it. And these aren't going to come back. These are not going to come back. These were never going to get the money from this government paltry money they've offered on these grants. And then if you take into account social clubs, everyone plays social clubs up here as well. They're venues, and I think 11 in the Northeast have closed. So you got 11 of those, 3 major venues, and that's in 3 weeks. And that's before, and it isn't going to get any better, is it? It can't get any better. And that's a really worrying trend. I think, because the amount of money the entertainment industry, the arts makes for this country, what the government are offering is absolutely paltry, and it's just not good enough. And this is a classic example of why it's not good enough. I've always thought... Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I always thought in times of crisis, a government would have some sort of social fund to look after its citizens, look after it, as best it could. But obviously, nothing like that exists. So it's disheartening. It's just really disheartening, and hopefully, when gigs do start off again, there will be venues there to do.
Yeah. And I mean, music hasn't stopped. The creation of music hasn't stopped. People enjoying music hasn't stopped. And you'd hope that, when you do go back and look at the history of the specials, in the height of political turmoil in England, during race riots and Maggie Thatcher, Ghost Town it captured that moment and was an expression of that. So you'd hope that some music is going to come to the fore and cut through all of that, one would hope.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I've always said that in times of crisis, you do get the best music. You do get the best music. And I think, although this is a different crisis of any kind we've never experienced before, I think stuff, you've seen it online yourself, and I've seen it, that's some great stuff coming out. We've got a track called, written by the guitarist Mark, called Before the War, which is before COVID. You know what I mean? So it's a little sort of like rose-tinted glasses look back at what we were like before and how we want it back. But that's how it affects people, and like you just said there, a majority of the great records are born out of crisis. And I hope that continues, and I hope we will see the same sort of thing from this as well. I'm sure we will.
Yeah. And let's bring it up then. Let's go to the positives. You know, you talked about the 7-inch vinyl that you brought out.
Yeah.
Lovely thing to have in your hand. But not only did you release that in the UK, Mexico it got released in as well. Like, I mean, that's quite nice, isn't it?
It'll do. It'll do.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
You know, it's not bad. No, it's phenomenal. When we were in America, we played in Detroit. We played with a band called Jay Navarro and the Traitors. Well, Jay Navarro is the voice of the American ska punkers, Suicide Machines. So it was great to play with them. And Eric, who sort of runs the band and stuff, he has a few little sidelines, and one of them is the Detroit Rhythm Crew. So Eric said, "Do you fancy doing a split vinyl?" Yeah, yes, I do. Because again, it's about profile and stuff like that. And it was wonderful, and he's done it old school Jamaican style, the big circle and missing and the cut and the cover. And we did our own cover, which I based around the Specials original Gangster Stamp sleeve, and because I do like the DIY approach. One of the good things about all this is the DIY approach, that we do as our own band. I mean, I think most bands are doing it that way now, but we do everything, merchandise, a lot, everything ourselves. And so it was great. And then what happened is it was picked up by Spinning Riot Records in Mexico to distribute across the South Americas, which has been crazy, absolutely crazy.
Nice.
And the good thing about that is money we've raised on this side and money they've raised over there goes to their food banks in Detroit and our local food bank here as well. So
nice one. And is it ever difficult, if you're out or that happens, you've this release in Mexico, or you do a tour of America, or you're off doing a weekend of gigs or a week of gigs somewhere, and you have to go back to running a cleaning company in Darlington. Is that a difficult transition to make? Or does it keep you kind of grounded? Does it stop you running away with the circus? Some responsibilities might be a good thing.
I work with my wife, so I'm very grounded by it all.
Okay. But does that mean you're able to go on the missing list? Is she pulling up? Is she taking in the slack on that sometimes?
A lot, yeah.
Okay,
and it's fine. It's fair, No, without her blessing, none of this could ever happen, and it's happened with the rest of the band as well. If we didn't have a good understanding, wonderful women by our side, we'd be lost. And but it does, and you come back from sometimes maybe 3 gigs in a weekend. You played festivals, you've got thousands of people, and you're absolutely adrenaline's coursing through your veins and stuff. And then you've got to get up and scrub a toilet in Darlington somewhere. It's very good level.
That'll bring you back down. As well as the music, then something that we have to look forward to is a documentary that you made of that trip, Way Out West, an offbeat adventure. When and how can people watch that documentary?
Well, we're hoping to get some hard copies done, but obviously the COVID things sort of knocked things on the head a bit with supplies and stuff like that and deliveries and stuff. So we're going to wait till it gets a little bit better. I'm going to try and get a couple of testers made, see how they look. But you can actually download it now. It's a big file. You can download it now from our website, which is www.thescapones.co.uk. It's actually on there to buy. It's about $5 just to download. But it's 2 hours long if you've got 2 hours to kill, or you want you never get 2 hours.
A lot of people have time to kill. We're not going out anytime soon.
Now's the time to watch it.
And if anyone's watching this, hopefully there are some people from different countries, and there's going to be some people in Ireland watching this for the Irish International Ska and Reggae Festival. And if you wanted to introduce people to the Scapones, where would you send them? Is there a track or a couple of things you say, this is a good introduction to what we do, before they watch the 2-hour documentary?
It's weird because I could name a track, but it'd change. You know what I mean? Within 10 minutes. It's like that sort of feeling. At the moment, I'm really into Betrayal of Trust, which is not a usual. There's a little bit of a Smiths influence in that one. If I did, it wasn't written by me, but it's written by the guitarist. A little bit of Johnny Marr stuff going on, but stuff like When It's Gone, It's Gone. Dorian's Going Grey. And then you've got stuff like The Ghost in Me, which is the other end of our scale sort of thing, which I wrote at 1 a.m. and you can tell. But stuff like that, So yeah, I mean, at this moment in time, I would say Betrayal of Trust, but my heart says, because it's a bit of a ska banger, I'd say When It's Gone at the moment. So yeah, so stuff like that.
And that's just an entree. They'll listen to all of them after that. Just an introduction. Yeah, fingers crossed. Paul, Willo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for taking the time for the chat. And hopefully we'll see you in Ireland very soon.
Yes, because we played this International Ska Festival last year, and I have to say, all the gigs we did last year, including the American one. That was one of the best ones. It was the people there were just fun. I've never been to Ireland before. It was a wonderful experience, and I just can't wait to get back because I've never been looked after like that. You know, just everybody was great. You know, it was just having a laugh and so relaxed. And it was, you know, when we played Tramore last year, the sun was out, which apparently is a rarity.
It's rare. It's rare enough. Yeah, it's rare enough. Yeah.
Maybe that's
you must have brought it with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice one, Mark.
Nice one. Good luck. Yep. All the best.
Take care, my friend. See you later. Thanks a lot.